that we learned with the arms bearer, where Shaul took his life. Here, according to this account, one of the differences is that this Amalekian boy finished off Shaul and he died because of it. Let's just read a few more psukim, and I want to sew some things together. When David questions him in verse 14, Vayomer Lev David, Ech lo yareita, how were you not fearful? L'shloch yadcha l'shachet et Mashiach Hashem. And the question is he a ger tzedek or not a ger tzedek? Well, if he's a ger tzedek, then you should have be careful not to do what? To touch the anointed of God. And let's just say that it's not accepted if he's a ger tzedek. Then from what reason? Maybe you have to kill an Amalekian. Maybe. Or do we say even if he's Jewish, there's a reason not to lift up your hand against a king of Israel for future generations? That no one should make the declaration that I am willing, or I'm listening to what he's saying, and I'm killing him. There are a few ways to answer the question why David has him killed, because right now in Pasuk Tedvav, Vaikra David, he doesn't do it himself. Liachad me'narim, he calls one of his youngsters. Vayomer Gash, come here, Pegabo, hit him. Vayakeo vayamot. He smites the Amalekian boy, and he's killed by one of the soldiers of David. Notice what David says here in Pasuk Tet Zayin, verse 16. Vayomer Elav, and this is basically the end of this matter that I want to sum up in a moment. Vayomer Elav David, Damcha Roshecha. He's apparently flipping and dying right now, but he says to him, Damecha al Roshecha. What does he mean? That your blood is on your head. Kificha, by your own volition, by your own mouth, anavacha lemor, anavacha, meaning there's like testimony against you. Why? Because you admitted. You said what? Anochi motati, I killed at Mashiach Hashem. What does he mean, damecha roshecha? So let's try to put a few things here together. We read in Midrash yesterday from the Mechilta of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, Rabbi Elazar HaModei, and it's also in the Tanchuma that we do not accept Gerim from the nation called Amalek. However, there's a Gemara, Amar Rabbi Yitzchak in the Gemara, that the person here is Doeg, Ha-Domi. Although there's a Gemara, the one that was just killed was the son, the son of Doeg Ha-Domi. Rashi does not bring this one over here. Where is it? I think of the son of Doeg Ha-Domi. And how is there a hint to it? Damecha al Roshecha. You, let's say it's Doeg and not the son. You, Doeg, you have blood on your head. What blood? Do you remember who was instrumental in the killing of the Kohanim in the Mishkan area called Nov? Who is the one that led the king to believe that the Kohanim are collaborating with David? It was Doeg Ha-Domi. He spoke Lashon Hara. He led Shaul to understand this. So maybe that's what some of the commentators said. The blood is on your head, meaning you're responsible for spilling the blood on the city called Nov, the city of Kohanim. And Rashi here in Pasuk Bet, am I right? Yes. Look at this. If you open up Pasuk, you don't have Rashi, do you? You do. Rashi, you want to say together with me, sir? At the beginning of the chapter on Pasuk Bet, V'hinei, surprise, Ishba min HaMachaneh, the young boy comes from the camp of the war now to the Negev where David is. Rashi says, Yesh b'psikta. Psikta is a name of a midrash. Shezed Doeg. That it's Doeg himself. There's a person called, don't worry, Loli Dog. But there's a person called Doeg. And he's called Doeg the Edomite. One meaning is, he came from the Edomite nation on the other side, which is the lineage of Amalek. and he did Esav, and he did Gior. And he's a troublemaker. He's a main advisor for Shaul. And Shaul went for this Lashon Hara. But you know what Rashi says? Ve'ino miyushav al libi. I really don't understand this midrash. It doesn't work well with my heart, literally. Okay? Now, my dear friends, one of the reasons you might say why it cannot be Doeg, how many times has David met Doeg? So why would he ask, who are you? Where are you from? It doesn't make sense. You understand the kashya that we have here? Why would he say, who are you? Where are you from? Even twice. Okay? Shaul and David, they wouldn't know Doeg Adumi. He was called Abir HaRoim, the strong of the shepherds, meaning he was a Sanhedrin man. He was a top judge. So why would David ask, who are you? And call him a nar, meaning he's a top-notch scholar, although he's messing up. Okay? Now, we learned Rabbi Eliezer's Shita. Rabbi Eliezer says that we do not accept Gerim. However, there's a Gemara. Did you ever meet up? You traveled in Bnei Brak once, didn't you, the other day? Did you ever meet up with the descendants of Haman? Did you meet up with Haman's descendants? You're not sure, right? Maybe you should clean your eyeglasses. The Gemara says in Tzadi Vav and Mesechet Sanhedrin, and also appears in Gita Nun Zayin, that the descendants of the sons of Haman were learning Torah, teaching Torah in Bnei Brak. I repeat, the descendants, the grandchildren and great-grandchildren later on of Haman were learning Torah in Bnei Brak. Now, what do you make out of this? Like, Haman comes from which nation? Amalek. So how does this approach of Rabbi Elazar in the Midrash here, it doesn't work out well with what the Talmud says? It seems that we have an opposing opinion. The truth is, I want to read you a Rambam. The Rambam, in his great work called Mishnah Torah, in the laws of Isurei Bia, Hilchot Isurei Bia, all the laws of prohibited and permitted relationships, the Rambam writes there in chapter 12, quote, Kol HaGoyim, Kulam, all nations that come, Keshiyitgairu, Vikablu Alehem Kol HaMitzot Shebetorah, Harei Hen Ki Yisrael L'chol Davar. I repeat, I'll transliterate. Any nation that comes, and when they do their conversion and they receive upon themselves all the mitzvot of the Torah, they're like a Jew for all matters. What do you infer from the language of the Rambam when he writes the words Kol HaGoyim Kulam, all nations, all of them, including Amalek? So there are those that understand the Rambam's approach here, that also from Amalek do we receive Gerim? Receive Gerim?
Well, I thought we don't accept Moabite men, right?
He's asking in the book of Dvarim. I forgot which chapter is it. Is it 25? I forgot which one. It says Lo Yavo Amoni Umoavi Bekal Hashem. Yes, they can convert, but they can't marry into the congregation of God, Kohen Levi in Yisrael.
Oh, I see.
Okay? It's often a misunderstood concept. So if you ask the Rambam, I'm going to get him on the phone. Why you, I'm talking to the Rambam here, just be careful, don't bother me. Rambam, yeah, we wanted to know, why didn't you accept the psikta, this Tanaik Midrash? It could be, you hear what the Rambam says? That the Rambam prefers the Gemara over the psikta, the Midrash. And since the Gemara says that the grandchildren of Haman were teaching Torah in Bnei Brak, so it must mean that from Amalek you can do Gior. Okay? It says, so therefore, if we say, how will the Rambam explain this? That if he did Gior, and according to the Rambam, the Gior is accepted, why did David have this lad killed? Again, according to the Rambam, why would David have this lad killed? Okay? So the Gemara says, have you ever heard of the term called a hora'at sha'ah? It's an instruction for that moment and that moment only. David was like head of the court. He made a decision even though it's not halachically founded. He's doing something for the betterment of the nation for all generations. Okay? What is he doing? He's showing this Jew, this Amalekian ger, you don't lift up a hand against royalty. Even if the king Shaul asked, kill me, I don't want to suffer from the Amalekins, the Plishtim, you're not supposed to listen. You're not supposed to listen. In other words, this idea is written really also amongst the commentaries here, that it was a hora'at sha'ah. I want to read you the Ralbag, one of the great Rishonim in the 14th century, I think if I'm not mistaken. The Ralbag, was he in France also? Or Spain, I forgot where. He writes this, Vinay, there are a few reasons why you shouldn't kill him. In order to do capital punishment in Torah law, what do you require? You require court, witnesses, a warning. Here, any witnesses? Warning. In fact, he what's the word? He not incited himself. He prosecuted himself. He indicted himself. He admitted to the violation by himself. In the court of Torah law, that's not accepted. Maybe for payment of monies, but not for capital punishment. So there are various halachic reasons why you would think he's not worthy of death. So the Ralbag says this point. I'm reading. Hine asad David zeh lehora'at sha'ah. An instruction for that moment, sha'ah, the hour. Shelo yakelu anashim l'shloach yadam b'malchut. We don't want people, to be trigger happy and start killing or assassinating kings because they're not doing the right thing. In other words, David is looking into the future. And I think this is very consistent with David's way of life. What did David abstain to do half of this Sefer Aleph could have been written 2 psukim. And Shaul ran after David countless times. And write another sentence. But half of how many chapters were there? 30. 15 of the chapters are the adventures of Shaul running after David. There must be, of course, an obvious reason why it's accounted for. And what did we learn? What did David abstain from doing? Killing him. Why not? Halachically said, there's a famous Talmud that says, Harodef achar chavero lehorgo, hashkem lehorgo. Translation.
Kill you, then you need to wake up earlier and kill them first.
What time should you wake up?
5 a.m.
Meaning, someone that pursues to kill someone else, you'll have to preempt and kill him first. That's halacha from the Gemara brought in the Rambam. David had several halachic permissions to kill Shaul, but he didn't. Why? The same reason here. I don't want people to read this incident and think you can take the law into your hands and assassinate the king of Israel. So this is why David purposely killed who? This Amalekian boy. Okay? Velezot hasiba be'ena nizhar mishloch yad b'Shaul. Exactly what I just said. That was the reason why he was so careful not to touch Shaul. Okay. So we have an explanation that even if the Gior of an Amalekian is okay, according to the famous Gemara that the great-grandchildren of Haman are studying Torah or teaching Torah in Bnei Brak, the Gemara says, so this is understood.
Wait, that's what?
We have a Tanakh. We seem to have a great argument, Midrash versus the Gemara. In the Midrash of the Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai Mechilta and Psikta, it seems that we do not accept Gerim from Amalek.
No, but it says the grandchildren of Amalek are really...
Tzadiva.
That's what they say today?
No, not. They said that 1,700 years ago in the Gemara, Sanhedrin page. What page was it on? Tzadivav Amud Bet, 96 side 2, and Gita Nun Zayin, 57 side 2. Quote, Mibnei Banav Shel Haman, the great-grandchildren of Haman, Lamdu Torah B'Bnei Brak.
What's that?
What's that?
I thought all sons of Haman were killed, no? All the 10 sons of Haman were killed.
So maybe he had grandchildren that were alive.
They didn't kill the grandchildren.
A list of how many kids were killed? 10. So maybe there were grandchildren.
Also, if this guy is a ger, why is he called Amalek? Why isn't he called like a ger, tzedek, or Yehudi?
You're right. Because he wanted to say where I'm from, which nation I'm from. Look how great I am.
That place to be from.
You're right, but look how good I am. I left terrible people. I left people that just hate the Jewish people, and I joined them. There is, in the late 1800s in Poland, there was a great Rabbi called Rav Avram Bernstein. He started a Hasidic dynasty called the Sokochov Hasidim. Rav Yisrael Cohen is a very, very big expert, I think, in their Hasidus matters. And he wrote a fantastic sefer of responsa literature, question and answer. We call it Shoot. It stands for the word Sheila Utshuva, responsa, Sheila Utshuva. And the name of the book is called Avnei Nezer, the stones of the crown. And he has like a middle opinion regarding Amalek, not like the Midrash and not like the Gemara. He says, as far as perform various submissive activities, roles, like drawing water, like digging ditches, but he can't do gior. That's his opinion. Some sort of like middle. We accept him to be befriended. He can do menial tasks and labor, but
Don't have to kill him?
no. Why? Because he's accepting friendship. He's leaving hatred of the Amalekim people to the Jewish people, like we saw before. So that's like a middle opinion between the Psikta that says we do not accept, and the Gemara that says B'nei Banav Shel Haman, we're learning Torah. I want to now sew up something that I learned from one of my rabbis, Rav Shimon Klein. He's the son-in-law of Rav Eliezer Melamed, my Rosh Yeshiva in Beit El. Many years I learned a lot of Tanakh from him. Should live and be well. He was a little sick. Hashem send refuah shlema. We want to put together two opposing understandings of the end of the life of Shaul. In chapter 31, we learned that Shaul dove onto his sword, and as if he killed himself out of fear that the Plishtim are coming. And they're going to do something terrible. They're going to abuse him. They're going to torture him until he be killed. Whereas here, in chapter 1, according to the account of the Amalekim, he is the one that finished him off. He's the one that finished him off. It seems as if that Shaul has two deaths. It seems as if he has two different deaths. Once in the hand of the Plishtim, meaning the Plishtim were the cause of it, and once here in regards to Amalek. What does it mean as students of the Tanakh? What does it mean for us when we see like two opposing things? So the answer could be that they're not in opposition. Rather, there are two ways of analyzing the end of the life of Shaul, and each way has a point to teach us. Which point? This book of Shmuel, which is sometimes called Menachem Aleph, the Abarbanel is a very lengthy introduction. I remember reading it once many years ago. He's arguing, why isn't it called, the beginning of Kings? It's true. The beginning of the kingdom of Israel starts here with Saul, with King Shaul. We all know, though, it's not a ongoing kingdom. It's a temporary kingdom. Shaul comes from the tribe of, and not Judah. Who is the enemy during this entire Sefer until now? The Plishtim. Why? The Plishtim, I think this is the words of the Gra in a Sefer called Habakkuk. One of these short Nevi'im is called Habakkuk. Nothing to do with Rav Kook. A prophet called Habakkuk. The Gra says the following: the objective of Plishtim in this world is that when royalty of the Jewish people rises, when a kingdom is taken, when power is taken to rule, to be a sovereign entity over the land of Israel, that's when the Plishtim stand up and disobey. That's when the Plishtim stand up and create conflicts. That's when the Plishtim stand up and struggle against the kingdom of the Jewish people in the land of Israel. In other words, Shaul is the kingdom, his arch enemy is the Plishtim, because there's a kingdom in Israel. And therefore, the fall of Shaul is also is by the Plishtim. Why? Do you remember where Shaul failed in regards to the Plishtim? In one of his first wars, okay, he was given clear instructions by the prophet Samuel: I'll meet you down in Gilgal, east of the mountain here, next to Jericho, and there you wait for me to bring korbanot, and then we go to war. He didn't listen to the instructions. He didn't listen. He muffed it. He messed it up. So it's proper here that his fall is at the hands of the Plishtim, where he takes his life away. Another time we're seeing a different explanation is in reference to Amalek. What does Amalek represent? Amalek represents the antithesis, the opposite of what the Jewish people stand for. We stand here to bring to the entire world. We have a cosmopolitical value. We want to bring the goodness of Hashem, the oneness of Hashem to the entire world. We have nothing against the nations of the world. They're all created in the image of God. They can be brought closer. That is the purpose of the Jewish people. That's stated in the second paragraph of the Aleinu L'Shabeach. It was stated by Joshua, the Midrash says, L'Takein Olam B'Malchut Shaddai. We want to correct the world in the Almighty Kingdom, meaning the values of goodness, of kindness, of mercy, according to Hashem. So here, Amalek, who represents the opposite of Tikkun Olam, they have their own reasons for matters in the world, and therefore we see that Amalek is at his hands. Do we see that Shaul is falling? So we see here again, Shaul is falling because of the fear of the Plishtim, and Shaul is falling because, in other words, there's a national conflict, that's vis-a-vis the Plishtim, and there's a global conflict of the Milchemet Amalek. And therefore, Shaul falls in both situations. He fell against the Plishtim, and he falls here against Amalek.
The Plishtim are not Amalek?
Absolutely not. No, they are a Mediterranean island-based nation. What is it called? Crete? Is that the name of the nation? The Crete Island? Is that what it's called today? It's right under. It's under.
It's not right under. It's like in
Cyprus, no?
It's right under Cyprus.
No.
It's not under.
It's like here, and Crete is like here. Here's the Greek peninsula.
Okay. So that's the two explanations we have.
The middle of the middle.